What's up, gamers? Welcome back to another episode of the Meta Update. My name is Joshua Joshi Howard, and as you can probably tell, my voice sounds different. I finally had the Sennheiser headset that I was using for basically a decade finally give out on me yesterday. So I have a new one. Let me know how it sounds, and in terms of both how loud I am, sound quality, I might be able to return this one. I just got it, but if it's all right, if you guys are having a good time, I'm having a good time as well. Also, it's my birthday tomorrow, so wish me a happy birthday in the comments down below. Anyway, um, before we get into talking about stuff, I haven't read a lot of the comments that you guys put up yet. I've been very busy for the past like 2 days. I have another couple job interviews lined up, so things are mostly looking up. It's looking all right. However, guard stuff is not looking too great, to be honest. I have 2 weeks of data here for you. 58 wins, 110 losses, 4 draws for an overall win rate of 34.9%. Now, one of the big things about this to note is that we still haven't crested like even a single like normal week for most of 10th. We're still only looking at like I think this is like 35 players or something in this data set. So it is less than like 1 week. This is a bad week, like a really bad week, but it is still just like 1 week of data effectively from a lot of the stuff that we're looking at. So don't look at it entirely too harshly, but the early warning signs are not looking good. To be honest, things are looking kind of grim. There is a huge exodus of top players to other factions for this patch. Uh, if you can name a top player, I can probably tell you what other faction that they are probably playing right now. Because guard is rough. There's a lot. I might do another video in the next couple of days about talking about what it is that has changed about guard, what it is that the edition has changed that makes it harder for guard to be played in the current edition. I know some people are still having some great success in their local games. So to those people, I applaud you. Well done. I've tried some of the lists that you guys have sent me. Anyway, a patch is coming in another couple of weeks, but I have not found anything on guard that I've been excited about in order to play for singles, and I like to hold myself to a bit of a higher standard. So I'm going to be playing something else that's not guard. It's probably going to be demons for Tacoma Open, and we'll see how that goes. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into it. I got 2 weeks of lists to show to you guys. Most of them are from the same event. Let's go ahead and get into it. The first one, we have ATC 8 players. This was a very large teams event happening somewhere in the eastern half of the United States. I don't know exactly where. But of course, we have Wesley St. Hines, Name of the Fish, coming back to reprise a 5-0 event. He was still playing Recon Element in the Recon disposition. So he's got Kading Castle and Kading K Command Squad in 20 Cadians, a Sign Command Squad in 10 Signs, another Sign Command Squad in another 10 Signs, God's Ghost and Dreer running around by himself. We'll talk about this towards the end. Uh, Again, okay, I guess I forgot to fix that part. Ogren Bodyguard, Ursa Creed. So one of the things that you might notice, Ogren Bodyguard not attached at this point. As far as the rules still say, you still attach it during the declare battle formation step, which is when you show up to the table. So in theory, you could choose to put the Ogren Bodyguard with the Cadian Castellans, which is where they will probably be most of the time. However, you could opt to put it with the Silent Command Squad, should you choose if you need to start one of them on the board. After that, it's a unit of 20 Krieg, no unit of 10 Krieg. Sorry, I'm still like fiddling around with all of the like formatting, and I guess I skipped some spots here. 3 in Cadian Recon. This is where Dreer really comes in. So the big thing about the Cadian Recon, of course, is they have that Vox beacon that they set up. Every TO I've talked to says that it sticks around after the Cadian Recon unit is dead, and Dreer having that short order range and not having the ability to attach to Master Vox is alleviated in a lot of ways by having these Vox beacons around such that Dreer can give out those orders. Same thing with Ursa Creed. You don't necessarily need a Master Vox for Creed if you have a bunch of Vox beacons lying around on your side of the board so you can get all of those orders generally where you need them to be anyway. The interesting thing here, of course, is 3 units of Catachan las cannons. Reroll once to hit and wound when targeting monsters and vehicles. 2 units of 5 Krieg engineers, and then 3 units of Krieg las cannons. Shoot on death on a 3+, and then a Scout Sentinel. So this is pretty different from what we're used to saying from Recon in general. One of the really important things at ATC to note is my understanding is that they were ruling all of their second stories to be exactly 3 inches up, which means that you can get heavy because you did not move more than 3 inches. You moved 3 inches. And you can get plunging fire because plunging fire just checks, are you 3 inches or more above? So if you go directly up with a las cannon, that means that you can get effectively +2 to hit by moving 3 inches and also take aim. So las cannons that normally hit on 5s, you can get them to hit on 2s. And then, of course, you get cover. So you're usually hitting on 3s, but that is a lot of las cannons, right? That's 9 Catachan las cannons rerolling once to hit and wound, and then 9 Krieg las cannons that shoot on death on a 3+. So, that's 18 las cannons hitting on 3s. That's actually like a real threat to a lot of vehicles that didn't previously exist. One of the other big things, of course, is having the ability to use the Catachan as just dudes that run forward. They are 65 points now, so they are cheaper than 10 normal Catachan, so that kind of makes them a little bit more interesting than they were before in comparison to having 10 dudes when the OC mattered quite a bit more. And then, of course, the Scions will be doing quite a bit of damage later on. Scout Sentinel still stays in here because the reroll once to hit is good, and the bring it down change didn't change that much overall. But, this is definitely something where we will see how much people pick this up. This does not look like an easy list to play, but you do have a little bit more movement on the board, but a lot less durability in 11th edition with this kind of list. Wesley, of course, gets 3 20-0s into other guard players, a 14-6 into Admech, and an 11-9 into Purge the Foe Necrons. As you can see, I'm going to try and put the color for the disposition that we play along the top, the color of the dispositions that they play along the bottom, where we do all that information. All right, another player of the same event. We have Jökull Jóhannsson. I think Swedish. I want to say Swedish. Coming over playing Grizzled Company in Priority Assets. And this is a list that we have seen Gustavo talking about in the past. It's Yarick attached to Scion Command Squad on 5 Scions. They will hop into a Chimera. Scion Command Squad on 10 Scions. Another Scion Command Squad, another 10 Scions. Catachan Command Squad. Just running around by themselves. This is, again, some of the cheapest stuff that we can run around is just the Command Squad. It's going to be 10 OC because you have the flag in that unit. Still scouts. They can't really get orders, but it's there. You have the Graves and Carr, Gaunt's Ghost, 2 units of 2 armored sentinels with las cannons. Now that they get a bit of a discount when you take them in squadrons of 2, they are still like really hard to shift. And now that they have gone down, they were 130 before. I think they're 120 now. Like that's starting to be when everything else has gone up. This is one of the most durable things that we can play for the points. So it is a little bit more interesting there. 1 Hellhound, 2 units of 2 Hippos with all the Meltus you can strap to them, the Chimera that Yarick is in, 1 unit or 2 units of 5 Death Riders, and 1 unit of 5 Krieg Engineers. So the big trick about this, of course, is using the Armored Sentinels as bait, force your opponent to come out and deal with them. They are still 4/6 OC, depending on whether you want to give them duty and honor or not. And then the other really big piece here is, of course, Yarick in the Chimera. Because of the change, the way that transports work, Yarick can pick his counter strategist while inside the transport. There's still disagreement on whether or not you can do the order splashing out of the Chimera. It's going to depend on who you ask. This is one that I would encourage you to send an email to 40kfaq@gwplc.com. Go ask them these kind of questions. Unfortunately, I don't have the answer to this one. I don't think you can, but other people who have strong opinions on it do think you can. So, something to think about. This is just fairly similar to Doom Bolt shells that we were playing before, but you're adding a reasonable amount of firepower in the Armored Sentinels and the Hippos in order to try and take down some of those vehicles. And you definitely don't have any problem killing Marine shapes with all of the Scions in this army. Jökull here ended up getting a couple of wins into Demons, a big win into Chaos Knights, a draw into Take and Hold GSC, and a big loss here into Disruption Emperor's Children. Moving on, we have Ben Isenhoff, and Ben barely qualifies for this one. Of course, the two things I'm looking for are, do you have an average, or do you have an ELO of 1600 or above? And secondly, did you score at least an 8 on average? And Ben Isenhoff here barely crosses above that, having 33 points over 5 games. Did I do my math wrong? I did my math wrong. It's all right, Ben. We can talk about it anyway. Anyway, Ben Isenhoff here is playing Mechanized Assault and Designation Force, playing in the Recon, coming from the Designation Force here. He had a Lord Solar, Canadian Command Squad, 1 unit 10 Cadians, Graves and Carr, 10 Krieg, 4 Centaurs, 3 Toraxes, a Cadian Recon, 2 Catachan las cannons, 3 Kazarkin, 2 units of 5 Krieg Engineers, 3 Krieg las cannons, and a unit of Aquilons. So you do have 7 transports here. You have 3 Kazarkin, you have a couple of Krieg Engineers, you have some las cannons to throw around. This is an interesting list, right? Because it is still 1, 2, 3, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. It is still 22 things. However, the problem that we're generally getting into is that they're doing less and less every single time we take stuff. I'm also really, really not a fan of mechanized or centaurs in general in 11th edition. Um, I do think these probably could have been chimeras and it would have had a little bit more success. The difference might be that you can firing deck a lot of stuff, but when you are in mechanized assault, you get the value by jumping out of the transport, not staying inside. So the firing deck isn't that interesting in general. And also, you still can't firing deck in Overwatch. So, you know, it is a thing. They do move 12 base instead of the 10 base that the Chimera does. So there is a bit more speed. But at that point, we're starting to ask, then why are we not playing this with more Toroxes? I don't really understand the centaurs in this list. Talked to a couple people who have played it, and they're like, yeah, centaurs exist. It is very, very scary if the centaurs die because they are made of paper. You will take a lot of damage from your own hazardous from the Kazurkin. And if they die, the unit getting out being battle shocked basically never does anything again. Unfortunately, is the way that a lot of it has gone. It's an interesting list. I don't love it. I think it can scrap. It is still recon with 22 things, so you can still do like all the actions you need. You can point at people when you need to, and it's fine. I don't think I would recommend taking this one, but it's a little bit interesting. Anyway, Ben here gets a draw into Blood Angels, small win and small loss into Purge Tau and Dark Angels, a big loss into Guard that was, of course, into Wesley St. Hines, and then a big loss, unfortunately, to Take and Hold GSC. That might be Tucker Ricky. I know he's been playing that. Anyway, bit of an interesting list. Kind of wanted to show you guys. This one I think is going to struggle to take hold in general, but it does look like a lot of fun. So if you're looking for something fun to play, this one is definitely on that list. Next, ATC 5 players. So most of the players at ATC were playing at the 8-player teams event, but there was a second smaller 5-player teams event over the same weekend. One of them was Frank Viroet playing for, what's her name? X and One. That's the team's name, X and One. And Frank here was playing. One of the ways that I do think that you can have some success if you're trying to play guard is by playing a durable stat check. And here this was in priority assets, which you have to do if you're playing Grizzle Company. It's a Gaunt's Ghost, 2 Wrigglethorn Commanders, 1 unit of 10 Krieg, 1 unit of Cadian Recon, 2 Hellhounds, 2 Luminars Battle Tanks, 2 Luminars Exterminators, and 3 Scout Sentinels. So one of the interesting things about this, of course, is you have a lot of things that are rerolling ones, and then the Luminous Battle Tanks rerolling all hits against things on objectives. So you don't necessarily need to order them, though they do like the orders. Hitting on 5s rerolling is a little bit better than hitting on 4s. Hitting on 4s rerolling is definitely better than hitting on 3s. So there's a lot of ways, and it is still, you can get the Ignores cover. You do have all their rerolls coming out from Grizzled. You do have a lot of AP stacking between Grizzled and the Exterminators. So there's a lot of different ways to make this do a lot of damage. It is relatively durable. One of the big things about this kind of list, though, is it does tend to struggle with a lot of the go wide lists. Like you do have a decent number of shots, but if they have a lot of MSU, you don't really have trouble killing the MSU. The problem is that they are generally going to come touch you and then leave you stranded. So it is one of the things where this will give you probably a reasonable win rate into things. It's also just a little bit tough being priority assets because you generally are being asked to do a lot of actions on one of the middle objectives in a lot of priority assets games. So it is one of the things that you do have to keep in mind. It is still quite a few things. You have 3 Scout Sentinels, you have the Cadian Recon, you have the Krieg, and you have Hellhounds that you can use in Gaunt's Ghost, like go push buttons if you need. But it is one of these where you do have to understand your mission very well in order to play this kind of list. But if you are looking for something to try, this is something that I would recommend people, give it a try. It's got a lot of tools. The AP1 on the Battle Tanks and Exterminators is a lot more relevant in 11th edition than it was in 10th. So a lot of this is fairly interesting, and you're avoiding the worst of all the extra taxes by taking the same units over and over. Frank here ends up getting, unfortunately, a big loss into AdMech before beating Dark Angels, World Leaders, and Tyranids, and getting a draw at the end into Tau. Moving on, same weekend we had Heroes Cup where we had Matthew Kulak playing with one of the XPZ squads. I don't think they called themselves XPZ. However, he was also playing Grizzled Company, and he gave me a ride home or a ride to the airport. So thanks to Matt. Hope you had a good time. Matt here is playing Lord Solar, attached to a Cadian Command Squad and 10 Cadians. Scion Command Squad with 5 Scions, a second Scion Command Squad with 5 Scions, Gaunt's Ghost, a single Rogaldorn Commander, 1 Torox, 2 units of 5 Rough Riders, 1 unit of 5 Greek Engineers, 1 unit of 5 Ratlings, 2 Hellhounds, a Luminous Battle Tank, and a Rogaldorn Battle Tank. So this is a fairly similar shell in some ways to the one that we just looked at from Frank Furo. I forgot to update his score. One of these I forgot to update. I'm not sure which one. But one of the big things about this, of course, is there's still a lot of Damage 3 coming out. You still have Scions to drop down and go for things. And you do have the 5 Rough Riders, and the Engineers, and the Ratlings, and Gaunt's Ghost, so you can still go push buttons. This has a couple more units that are more naturally trying to push buttons and has a little bit more dynamicism to the style of list than the one that we saw from Frank Furo. So if you are trying to find something to work, this is another thing that I would, give a try. I think I forgot to update Matt's scores here, but he did go 3-1-1, and overall they had a pretty good time. And his team was dressed as hobbits and Gandalf, so that was pretty cool. All right, moving on, our last and our only singles list to show you between 2 weekends is Anthony Keene. And if you go check the Birmingham Super Major, you'll see that it says that he has 3 wins, 1 loss, and 1 draw. So why is he on this? That's not the 75% win rate. He messaged me on Reddit, and one of the big things that I have heard that I find kind of entertaining, but a lot of people, are very excited whenever they get to feature it in one of these videos. And Anthony wanted to make sure that he got in that video, so he said that instead of getting a draw in his last round, he actually won at 86-81. I don't know if that's true, but if you're willing to lie to me about it on Reddit, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. So anyway, well done to Anthony Keene. I think this is the first time I've seen you in a video, but I appreciate the message. Anthony here is playing a Lord Solar, Cadian Command Squad, 10 Cadians, Graves and Carr, Gaunt's Ghost, 1 Rogaldorn Commander, 2 Hellhounds, 2 Hippos with Vigilator Cannons, and then the Melta Gun, Lemonar's Battle Tank, Lemonar's Exterminator, Lemonar's Vanquisher, Rogaldorn Battle Tank, and Scout Sentinel. So really doing a lot to try and avoid as many of the extra unit taxes. Anthony was also playing this Hammer the Emperor Designation Force for Purge the Foe. And this is another style of list that I think is interesting. In general, I think skewing towards just playing tanks is a way that you're going to get some armies that just can't deal with it. Right? There are just a lot of armies that will not be able to deal with this many tanks, and it's a way that you can get, especially things like Tau, who are almost exclusively going to be winning you on 5s. You can generally get some opportunities to just punch through them that way. Anthony here, the one thing that I don't really like about this list is I can't stand the Vigilator Cannon on the Hippos. It is D6 shots at 7-1-2 that hit on 4s base. So if you give them an order, they're hitting on 3s, but you're probably shooting at something that is in cover, so you're back to hitting on 4s. And you kill like a Marine with the Vigilator Cannon. It's one of the same issues I have with the Lehman Russ Eradicator. The gun is just bad. Like the gun just sucks. It maybe it has a little bit more play into like the Green Tide that we're starting to see a little bit more of. Because at least it does have blast when you get like the +4 blast, sometimes +5 against some things like Green Tide. You'll probably kill like 3 orcs. You maybe get lucky and can kill more orcs with the hippos. But I'm very much a fan of, if you're going to be taking hippos, just put Meltas on them. You're generally setting them up. They're generally you're going to be able to get within that 18-inch range. And if you're only going to kill 1 Marine, might as well overkill them with the Melta Gun, because it gives you a better chance of swinging up. And you have the volume. Like you aren't quite as worried about like running into Green Tide or some of the GSC builds that are running around right now as a lot of other armies are, because you just have a lot of shots in the rest of your army. So I don't think the Vigilator Cannon really does a whole lot here. That said, though, Anthony ends up getting wins into Tau Orcs, a loss into Necrons, which is Andy Quascoa, and a very strong player over in the UK, before beating Tau and Blood Angels to close things out. So at the very least, having a pretty good run, doing a pretty decent job at showcasing that some armies just cannot punch through all of the holes that we are still able to put on. Yeah, I mean, that's the big thing. I think if you're trying to play guard right now, there's like there's still like a grizzled build with Yarick and Scions that is okay. There's still like the recon build that is okay. And there's still like tank skew builds that are okay. The problem is I never feel like I have a ton of agency with the tank skew builds. It's just really hard because they're mostly just hitting on 4s and 5s now, which makes me sad. But yeah, like if you're trying to find stuff, there's stuff that you can make work. However, if you have other armies and you care about your results more than playing guard, I would probably recommend playing something that's not guard right now. Wait a couple of weeks until the patch, which we are expecting. It's not guaranteed, but the rumor is it's going to be on the 22nd because WTC was told that the patch will come before their rules cutoff, which I believe is like the last weekend of July. So if we're going to get one, it's probably going to be the week before that. So probably like July 22nd, thereabouts. Yeah, guard's hanging in there. It's a faction of all time. I will continue doing these update videos even if I start playing other factions. I might do them maybe not every week, but at least every other week. We'll see how that goes. Hopefully the next patch does well for us. For now, though, that is all I got for today. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I'll see you guys all next time. Bye-bye.